Hey students, how are you? So, for for this article, the five great ideas in public administration, five great ideas in American public administration, excuse me, by Dr. Mark Holzer and Dr. Vasya Gabrielin. This article is something that is very personal to me. I actually had Dr. Holzer as my boss for a while when I was a graduate student at Rutgers. So I actually studied this article for my comp exams when I took my comp exams back in 2007. 2007, yeah. So I actually had to memorize the entire article for my exam, which it was not easy to do. 47 pages, 55 if you count the citations, but it probably is one of the most seminal articles in public administration. It is not a book. It was a standalone article. We studied it in the Introduction to Public Administration class that I took as a graduate student at Rutgers. The reason why I like using this article so much, even though it's been so many years, is because this article discusses all the stuff that you need to know about basic public administration whenever any of you, which will happen sometime, head over to DC or Austin for a cocktail politics party. And you can talk to them, which is what people do at cocktail parties about public administration and politics and policy intertwining with each other. So for this video, I want to talk a little about the introduction, the overview, and the key themes about this article. Now, public administration, of course, is actually a relatively new and applied field. I don't know if many students know this, but public administration has actually only been around since about 1887. And the reason it came about was because there was a president, James Garfield, who was assassinated while waiting for his train by by a disgruntled job seeker who would try to apply to the White House to work, and he just never got the job. He's very upset. Those days, Secret Service did not really exist as much as it does today. And so James Garfield was just standing at the platform waiting for the train to come. Somebody walked up to him, this young man, and he shot him in the head and killed him. A few years later, Congress got together and passed the Pendleton Act. And the Pendleton Act is what set apart and started the entire civil service system. Civil service system. So it's a relatively new field. And after that, they kept going forward, and of course now, not to put too much humor, but DOGE is coming for everybody's jobs in the government, or maybe not. We shall see. But it's a relatively new and applied field. It's constantly evolving, and it's sort of been cut off parts from sociology, from political science, from public policy. Different parts of disciplines have made up public administration. Introduction talks a little bit about the introduction talks a little bit about the evolution of public administration. So, for example, they talk about the fact that there are theories and tenets in public administration which are best discussed in terms of their impact on the field's development, the public rhetoric that has justified their adoption, and the factors that shape them. So the authors proposed, Dr. Holzer and Dr. Gabriel, that there are five great ideas. Now, I never got a chance to ask Dr. Holzer, and maybe someday I will, maybe he is still alive, as to why five ideas. Why not six? Why not three? Why not 10? Why not 50? Maybe one of you will think of the sixth great idea. Could be. I mean, it's possible. I haven't thought of it, but it's possible there's six, maybe seven ideas out there. There's historical importance and theoretical distinctiveness for the five great ideas. So one thing, of course, is about the ancient roots of and connection with American development of public administration. While public administration as a systematic field of study is just over 100 years old, right, 1887, the management of public affairs has ancient roots. Of course, there are ancient societies like China, Rome, India, Egypt also, right? They developed elaborative type of administrative structures to manage society. That's what government's all about. And so they needed, deep bureaucratic type of bulwarks against society rebelling, again, keeping society contained, keeping society functioning. Public administration in the United States is characterized by its application of social, other sciences, of public problems that are also with public policy. And they have often ongoing reconciliation, contradictory views, such as what's going on in Trump land right now, right? In DC, Elon Musk wanted to try to chop apart bits and pieces of the federal government. Here in Texas, there's other parts that may be getting chopped off, maybe, possibly in the legislative session ongoing. It happens. There's some fundamental questions we should consider as we start this article, because this is the main part of the course. This article is very important, and it's I promise you, this article, if you read it a few times, it will help you tremendously for networking. You'll have something to converse about and talk about in a very intelligent fashion. And you can always say, you can give me the credit, although it's really Dr. Holzer and Dr. Gabriel. So there's fundamental questions. For example, where does politics stop and administration begin? Politics isn't everything, right? How can employees be led, motivated, protected from political excesses? How does public management differ from private management? What is the proper scope of government services? How should power be centralized or decentralized? How can efficiency, effectiveness, and equity be balanced? Who should govern? And what is the role of their expertise? What is the nature of the public interest? These questions reflect the field's ongoing identity crisis. When you look at different fields and disciplines, you can consider them in the idea of, a baby, a toddler, maybe, a young boy, 7, 10, 12 years of age, preteen, teens, young man, college, graduate school, entering your 30s, midlife, like me, and maybe elderly after that. Fields grow and change over time. When you look at, for example, the history of the internet's been around for 30 years. It's changed over time, right? It has changed. Similarly, fields like public administration, public policy, political science, other fields, they change over time. That is very natural. That's normal for things to change. Change is always ongoing. Now, public administration has often been shaped by public discourse. That's a very big thing, because they mentioned, one of them is about politics and administration, how to separate them, what the roles are, because unfortunately people sometimes they get into positions of power, they abuse their power. Now, there are conflicting parts, administration versus politics, public versus private management, and there's key ideas such as things that have happened in major events or public concerns, such as the adoption of scientific management to improve railroad productivity, or the rise of human relations model, which they'll discuss further detail in different ideas coming down. Now, there is, of course, a management theory jungle by Harold Kuntz, which identified multiple overlapping schools of thought. The competing values framework by Robert E. Quinn, which argues that successful organizations must balance different approaches rather than excel at only one. The multi-paradigm and meta-paradigm theory building, recognizing that different theories address different activities or situations and can coexist as complementary perspectives. But despite these frameworks, public administration can resist easy classification due to its multidisciplinary nature, drawing from law, political science, economics, and sociology. Theories can be broadly grouped into those focusing on the management of public organizations and those examining the role of bureaucracy in constitutional democracy. Competing values and multiple perspectives. So, for example, since the 1970s, there's been growing recognition that public administration must satisfy multiple, often competing values. Scholars have argued for the legitimacy of diverse perspectives, including postmodern, interpretive, and critical analyses that emphasize human experience and democratic values. Some of you remember that, late 70s, early 80s, under Reagan and Margaret Thatcher in England, there were a lot of changes that happened for the public-private roles that the government played in these societies. Reagan has been criticized very often that he cut the government and cut welfare and shrank the government in an effort to give tax cuts to his good buddies. That may not be true, and that may be happening even today. I don't really know that. But there is some historical evidence that might suggest that. In that case, of course, public and the private sector there were different competing challenges that went on, different roles that changed. People often say that the 1960s was under L.B. Johnson. There was called the War on Poverty, that they spent a lot of money for desegregation, for the Civil Rights Act, for creating school lunches. A lot of things happened at that time. It was a great society, the great awakening of society, to create a truly equilibrium, egalitarian society. That may not really be true today, unfortunately, as things look and people's perspectives are. Now, there are 5 great ideas that I want to talk about in summary. So, honest, nonpartisan, and business-like government. Number 1 idea. Idea number 1. Focus on organizational efficiency, structure, and scientific management. To be very honest, nonpartisan, doesn't matter if you're Republican or Democrat or independent, everyone gets the same service. And it's business-like, efficient. That's what the model of business is. Of course, we now live in 2025. We know that businesses are not always efficient. That's very true, right? Classic management models. Now, idea number 2 focuses on organizational efficiency, structure, and scientific management. Politics and policy making. It recognizes the inseparability of politics and administration. Human behavior. It stresses the importance of social systems, motivation, and informal organizations. Program effectiveness. Idea number 5 integrates previous ideas, focus on holistic, adaptive, and results-oriented management. So there you have it. Each idea represents a response to the challenges of its time and contributes to a more nuanced, comprehensive understanding of public administration. The field is thus seen as a synthesis of overlapping insights, not as a series of mutually exclusive schools. And so there you have it. That's the summary of the introduction of the 5 great ideas. I will discuss more of idea 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5 in subsequent videos.